Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of Pressing Matters. This is episode number 10 since we've started the whole Plug Talk Sports Network. Very excited. I knew that when I was going to add my own soccer show to our network, this is one of the guys I wanted to get on here. This is Franco Panizo. He's part of Miami Total Football. He covers Inter Miami. I've actually known Franco for quite a bit during my time at Inter Miami. And I was commentating during the 2021 season. We ran a tight ship, so production was also in my responsibilities. So being in the press conference room, that's where I got to meet Franco, and we've known each other since then, and we've crossed paths a couple times.
Yeah.
But thank you, man. Thank you for being here. And since then, I mean, we get to talk about the MLS Cup final.
Crazy, right? From the beginning, infant stages of Inter Miami, before they could even really walk. Now they're in the MLS Cup final. Chance to make history with Messi on the field. Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets' final games of their careers. There's a lot to talk about. And it's good to see you, man. I haven't crossed paths with you as of late, as much as we had in recent times, but it's good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for inviting me.
I appreciate it, man. I will say, a lot of people go at you, man. But I always, every time I always defend you. I commend you. I follow all of your stuff. And actually, you're actually a very big fan of my dad as well. My dad loves you. Yeah, my dad. Every time something Inter Miami or MLS comes out, my dad always tells me, he's like, "Hey, what Franco say?"
I like that. I almost like that as much as your intro music. It's got the smooth jazz thing going on before we got some house and some electronic stuff going on. But yeah, I'll take that. Listen, man, I know I'm a pain in the ass for people that work at Inter Miami. So I'm sure when you were at Inter Miami, you heard some not so great things about me. But that's what a reporter, like if a reporter and a team have a very lovey-dovey and friendly relationship, then one of the two is not doing their job correctly, because there's always supposed to be tension there, right? The team wants a certain message out. A reporter's job is to do something different that is based on what's actually happening, not what's best for the team. So there should be tension there. You can have a nice working relationship. Doesn't mean you have to be best friends. If you can be friends, great, but normally there should be a little tension. Normally.
Here's my thing, and I always shared my opinion. I always said, I get why you guys feel a sort of way or upset or bothered, but he's not our PR. He's a journalist. He's doing his job. And what I always appreciate is that you never cower away from telling the truth, whether you like it or not. You know, they always say the truth hurts sometimes. And that was always been my opinion, is that you do your job and you say the truth, whether people like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, my name is Franco, which in Spanish, Franco, right? So, which would mean Frank in English, which we know what Frank means, which is honest, straightforward, whatever the case is. I think I live up to my name. It's just how I am. So for better or for worse, you know I can be a thorn in team sides that I cover. I can be a thorn to fans who read certain things. Some people don't want to see tough opinions about their team. Some people do. It just, I mean, this day and age, then with social media and everything that's changed, the game of reporting and journalism has changed as well, and how it's perceived by not everyone, but by a section of the population or a sector of the population. So I get it, man. Look, it's par for the course. I get. I don't know if you accept curse words on this podcast, so I get crapped on often by Messi fans on Twitter whenever I say anything critical about him. Honestly, I find it funny. I come from a military father. Rest in peace. So words don't really bother me. It actually makes me laugh. I actually kind of have a mean sense of humor. So it's all good. It's all good. I know I'm not supposed to be everybody's cup of tea. Like that's not what a reporter is. It's not what there's reporters you can respect, but you're not going to agree with all their opinions. Just like anybody else in any walk of life, right? You share enough opinions about whatever the case is. Wrestling, sports, politics, cars, colors, clothes, whatever the fashion, whatever the case is. you're gonna disagree at some point.
So there's always gonna be that one person.
Yeah.
But we're here, man. We're finally at the MLS Cup final, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't think we were going to make it, but we're here. What do you think were the defining moments that got Inter Miami to this stage?
No, obviously the biggest one is one that they didn't even do on their own, right? The biggest one is Nashville SC reclamando. Nashville SC submitting a formal complaint for Luis Suarez's kick out at Andy Najar. And that led to a suspension for Luis Suarez, which then resulted in a tremendous performance from Inter Miami in that decisive Game 3 against Nashville. A game that Javier Mascherano described as almost perfect in his post-game press conference. And that finally, I guess, gave him the proof to point at to whoever makes the decisions, the real decisions behind the scenes, and say, we need to play with this lineup. We need to take Suarez out. Because I'm of the belief, this is not inside information, this is my supposition, my sensation, you could call it speculation. I'm of the belief that Javier Mascherano, to a certain extent, is handcuffed in terms of what he can do as a head coach. And I think throughout the year, when Suarez wasn't performing, when he wasn't scoring goals, and Mascherano was asked about Suarez's form and why he starts, the response was, he's been signed as a big part of this project. Which wasn't like, hey, I believe in this, and this. It sounded like, I can't take him out. And if you look at just the body of work of the season, Suarez didn't come out almost ever.
Yeah.
Until that suspension, I think that suspension allowed Mascherano to make a bigger case for why Suarez maybe shouldn't start in the next few games, which were all playoff games. That's been the case, and Inter Miami has been firing on all cylinders. They've won 3 games in a row now by 4 goal differences. So obviously they're in good shape now heading into the final. And you have Luis Suarez on the bench in case you need a goal. So Inter Miami's in good shape.
The next question I was going to ask you, players who stepped up on this playoff run. And I think one player came to mind, and he got a lot of criticism, but he definitely has stepped up, and that is Tadeo Allende. And I know I saw your report. He was not in training today with a fever, and he should be back tomorrow, apparently. We know how that goes. But, yeah, he got a lot of criticism, but he backed it up, and he was a big part of the game in New York against New York.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely been freed up in this new system without Suarez. The Inter Miami has gone from playing what was a 4-4-2. Javier Mascherano was pretty much married to that 4-4-2 to now a 4-3-3. And it's Messi as a false 9 with 2 wingers, flanking him. And Allende has been freed up to do things that play more to his strengths, stretching the back line, running in behind, using his speed. It's also allowed him to maybe feel more confident in the area, not having to do things he's not so comfortable doing, which has led to more goals. He's the leading scorer for Inter Miami in the playoffs. So he's definitely stepped up. If you're ahead of Messi in the goals department on any team, that you're doing things right. And again, this is just for playoffs, not for the regular season.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, he has more goals than Messi right now. Now, he was not present today in training during the 15, 20 minutes that we had access to. Could he have come out afterwards? Maybe Inter Miami's playing mind games. I don't know if I'm buying this explanation for Mascherano about a fever. I'm just not buying it, man. If it's stock, sell. I'm not buying it, man. My journalistic olfato, my journalistic scent doesn't lead me to believe that, especially with how Mascherano talked about it during the press conference today. And I just touched on this on Miami Total Football Radio, which just finished. And I shared the soundbite. I shared the clip in which Mascherano says in Spanish, Tadeo woke up with some, like a fever, with high temperature, nothing serious. We didn't want to have him out there today. He should be back with the team tomorrow, and he'll be in the lineup on Saturday. Since when does Mascherano ever give any inkling, any clue as to who his starting team is?
That's
even
true.
For the most obvious options anywhere, even if it's Messi, even if it's anybody, he almost never says this guy's starting outright. And you can go back to this most recent game against New York City FC where he's asked, I forget what he was asked, but his response is that he believes in el hermetismo. He believes in secrecy as a coach, to not give the other team pistas, to not give the other teams clues as to what you're going to do. He added, even though there's not a whole lot of secrets in soccer these days between what you're going to do, what we're going to do, personnel, strategies, tactics, etc. But he still believes in that philosophy. And you have seen that philosophy throughout the course of the year, because sometimes you ask him questions and he doesn't say anything. And now out of nowhere, he's just going to come out and say that Tadeo Allende is starting on Saturday. Doesn't seem consistent, and it seems out of the norm. A lot of this is pattern recognition. A lot of this, the journalistic cap is pattern recognition. That doesn't pass the sniff test for me. That doesn't match up. I think there's something bigger at play. We'll see tomorrow. Listen, if Tadeo Allende is out there with the rest of his teammates, then, you can call me cynical, jaded, and wrong, and I'll gladly take that. But I think there's more to it. I just don't think that Mascherano just came out and said, Tadeo Allende is going to start on Saturday. I'll just give you one of my lineups. Why would we even keep it as a mystery?
I don't think Vancouver cares about the secrecy, because they might be coming into this game with some confidence, knowing that they thrashed Inter Miami when they faced each other. And that was without Thomas Müller. I mean, you have a Berhalter who is most likely going to get selected to play on a national team for the World Cup. I mean, how confident do you think Vancouver is flying all the way down here to come play Miami in this final?
I think they feel confident in their chances. Absolutely. Obviously they not only beat the team Inter Miami earlier in the year in convincing fashion over two legs in the Champions Cup, but they're also in a good way right now. And they've been very consistent over the course of the season, where Inter Miami's it's had its moments. It's had its rough moments. Vancouver's probably been a little bit more consistent this year, albeit with less. I don't know if I could say less. But anyway, I was going to say less games, but probably less games, but probably not by a whole lot. I think they come in with a lot of confidence. Thomas Müller today is kind of silly in his pregame press conference. Little joker, having laughs, being funny. He had some personality, which you like. You need, MLS needs more of that, to be honest with you. It doesn't need less of it. So, but he sounded confident. He knows that it's going to be a tough matchup against Messi and the like. But he sounded confident. Berhalter sounded pretty confident too. He described two characteristics, which I think will be kind of the starting point for both teams, and that's intensity and hard work. Those are the terms he used. If Inter Miami can match Vancouver in their intensity and hard work, Inter Miami's got a shot. If they don't, then it could be a day to forget.
So
Inter Miami has its weapons too. Inter Miami has its options to cause some pain as well.
You think that would be the key for Miami to come into this match and win?
For me, for Inter Miami, I mean, right now, look, you've got Messi, right? He's the ace in the hole. He's the jack of all trades, the joker. He can win a game on his own. Inter Miami, as of late, has also shown that they don't necessarily need him to be at the top of his game to win, right? This last game against New York City FC, he had 1 assist and 5 goals. In the 5 goals, he had 1 assist. Not that I'm saying but in 5 goals, he had 1 assist. That's it. There was a hat-trick from Tadeo Allende. Telasco Segovia got a goal. Matteo Silvetti got another. So if Inter Miami has Messi, who can win games on his own, but they also have a team that can also win games if he's not having a tremendous night, then that makes Inter Miami extremely, extremely dangerous. They have become more of a modern MLS team. They've become more of a modern team in general, right? Now they're able to run more, cover more ground. They have more of the physical attributes now with Suarez out of the lineup and this 4-3-3 with younger, fresher legs. Rodrigo de Paul's role has been simplified. Instead of him being forced to play as like a tucked in right midfielder, now he's one of three in the middle. So it has helped simplify things. It has helped play players to their strengths more, but it's also made Inter Miami a more modern team, a more MLS team, a more athletic team. And that obviously bodes well in a league like Major League Soccer, where it's very transitional, a lot of back and forth. A big knock on Inter Miami this year has been, they physically didn't have the legs, right? They just couldn't keep up with the amount of running that a lot of MLS teams do. Well, if they have those legs plus the quality of a Messi, then you're in really good shape. But it starts with the intensity and the hard work. If they don't have that ingredient to start, then it could be, again, a day to forget.
So I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think that once I saw that NYCFC was the team going to the Eastern Conference Final, I felt, okay, well, I think Inter Miami has a very good chance to head to the final, because I think if it was the Philadelphia Union and Miami had to go up to Subaru Park, which I've been to twice, it's a very hostile place to play at. I did fancy Philadelphia's chances to go through. Do you agree with me on that statement? Do you think that once NYC went through, it was a very big opportunity and door open for Miami to get to the final?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they were heavy favorites over New York City FC. Philadelphia would have been, at least on paper, more of a stiffer test. NYCFC had done some good things this year, but I don't think they really stood much of a chance. I didn't predict NYCFC to slow down Inter Miami, if I'm being honest. And obviously Inter Miami at the end of the day crushed them, right? When they win 5-1 in that game. Now the game was tighter than that scoreline indicates. It was 2-1 in the 65th minute before Inter Miami gets the goal que los desahoga, that lets them have some breathing room, and lets them cruise to the finish line with blowing the game wide open. So the game was tight to a certain point. New York City FC had a chance to tie it. They didn't. And then Inter Miami scored shortly thereafter, the 3-1. But Inter Miami was the better team from pretty much the 10th minute on. Like, from the run of play, they were just the better team. So Inter Miami were deserved winners. You could talk about maybe the mind games they play, the trash talking they do, the way they try to get under your opponent's skin. Clearly that helped them get a goal against NYCFC, the second goal. I think that will be an element from Inter Miami on Saturday against Vancouver. Something that Vancouver has to try to be attentive about and not fall into those tactics or that strategy. But yeah, I mean, New York City FC wasn't. I didn't think New York City FC was going to be much of a hurdle for Inter Miami.
And I never really, to be honest with you, I never, at the start of the playoffs heading into this, I was never really a big believer in FC Cincinnati or throughout the year, even Columbus Crew. I had a feeling that if Miami, which they did face Cincinnati, but if they had to face, obviously I was thinking Cincinnati or Columbus, I didn't have a worry, because I never believed in those teams, even though Cincinnati finished ahead of Miami. They just didn't really, it didn't move the needle for me.
It's interesting because if Suarez was in the lineup, I think not NYCFC, but I think Cincinnati was capable of beating Inter Miami. Now Brenner had a shocker, and Vander had a nightmare in the game.
Yeah.
But I still think if you have Suarez in there and you are that Inter Miami team that we've seen be vulnerable in transition, that just doesn't have the legs because you've got Messi and Suarez at the top, and that obviously takes two players away from you, even though they put in their efforts and they try to hustle. They don't cover a lot of ground defensively, and that leaves you pretty exposed at the back. So I don't know, man. I think Cincinnati could have presented Inter Miami problems had they faced the Inter Miami that we've seen all season with Suarez in the 4-4-2. The 4-3-3 has unlocked Inter Miami, is the best way I can put it. It's given the best version of Inter Miami. It's giving you a Messi with a team around him that's capable of better complementing him.
I have been a big critic, probably since the inception of this club, of the defense. I've always thought that the defense was...
I love this topic.
...was garbage. And throughout this playoff run, I'm like, wow. I mean, they seem to somehow get it together. I mean, what changed for the defense?
It goes back to the point of the system change and having more legs. And not only do Matteo Silvetti, a teenager, and Tadeo Allende give you more legs in terms of just running back and forth on the field, but they can also press differently, right? It's not the same as Suarez, who, despite his efforts, can only press you up to certain points in certain ways. Now you can press differently. You can move your team higher up the field. Again, now you have, instead of a 4-man midfield, you have a 3-man midfield. Rodrigo de Paul's playing in more of his natural position. And, his game is all about el motorcito, right?
Yeah.
Just the little engine, and being able to cover ground and break things up. And it's definitely helped everything in front of the back line. And the back line's also done its part. Rocco Rios Novo has also been a pleasant surprise. He hasn't been overly challenged or overly contested, but the moments that he is called into action, he steps up and he delivers, right? Other players might be tuned off, especially if they're this young, because they're not, if you're a goalkeeper, you're not getting any action. The one time it comes, you're not sharp enough, but he's been mentally tuned in, turned on. And they've just been a very well-rounded team with good balance on both sides of the ball.
I have to tell you this take. I tell everyone this take. I've said it a couple times on our regular podcast. It's all South Florida sports on Monday nights. They have a chance on Saturday, but I have been saying for a while that if Messi, in his time in Miami, does not leaves, without having won the MLS Cup, not financially, but it would have been a sporting failure. It would be like saying when LeBron James came to the Miami Heat, if he would have never won an NBA Finals with the Heat.
1,000%. 1,000%. I don't think that's you going out on a limb. Anybody that says that you are is either just a Messi fan or wearing pink and black rose-colored glasses. Because Messi wasn't brought here just to sell shirts and to drum up interest. Messi was brought here to win trophies and titles. Look, they have a Leagues Cup trophy. It was the first in the history. It's nice one to have because he had just arrived. But Leagues Cup really doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get you Champions Cup entry, but it doesn't have a whole lot of weight because it doesn't have a whole lot of history. They won the Supporters' Shield as the team with the best ever record in MLS regular season play, or the best points that ever were produced. And that's another nice feather in the cap, but that is not a title.
It doesn't mean
much. It's just a trophy.
Yeah.
Right? And they ended up losing the first round to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it didn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. Look at Philadelphia this year. They win the Supporters' Shield, and they're not even in the hunt anymore. They need to win an MLS Cup.
Yeah.
Shoot. As long as he's expected to stay, I think they might need to win 2. Because 1 would be good, but they need to win 2 for this to be a sporting success. So what? He's here, 2023, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Yeah. He's here 6 years. They win 1, and that's a sporting success. I think when you have a player of Messi's caliber, even though he's getting older, clearly you're going to be one of the favorites. Clearly you're expected to compete. They definitely need to win at least one, if not maybe two, in order for this to be deemed, in my opinion, a sporting success. So I'm with you. If you don't win any, the project is a failure. Doesn't matter what they say afterwards about, he generated so much interest, unprecedented interest, worldwide, domestically. He sold so many shirts. He helped the revenue, blah, blah, blah. He won a lot of games. He delighted. He dazzled. He lit up the eyes of so many kids in South Florida and around the world. All that PR drivel and nonsense that they'll say, some of it which is true, but that's not what you get judged by. In sports, you get judged by results.
Yeah.
You got to win. So MLS Cup, absolutely, or bust.
I have to ask you this. I saw you posted on X today, and when I saw your post, I was like, I have to ask him this because this crossed my mind after the New York game. It was about ownership being very quiet at the moment. And I was left scratching my head last Sunday when I'm sitting watching the Qatar Grand Prix as a big Formula One fan that I am. And they showed David Beckham on the screen. And I'm thinking, this was probably the biggest moment in this club's history to win the Eastern Conference and to get to the MLS Cup final. And you are at the Formula One race in Qatar. Granted, I think that he has some sort of ambassador role with Qatar. Yeah. But this is your club. This is probably the biggest moment in your club's history.
So for Beckham, there's probably some, like you said, there's probably some contractual obligation. Yeah. And it's pretty hard to get out of a contractual obligation. Yeah. If you've got a contractual obligation, I mean, I don't think they're going to – I mean, maybe you can negotiate, hey, I can't come. There's this really important thing here. But if they're paying you, they might not budge. Or maybe Beckham's not the type of businessman that wants to ruffle feathers. You know, he prioritizes his brand and the money maybe. So I get the criticism, but I also can understand from his point if there's just a conflict and there's a conflict. Maybe, you know, the bigger criticism is, does Beckham at this point need all these agreements and contractual obligations? You know, something could be said for that to free him up a little bit. But I mean, ideally you would want Jorge Mas and David Beckham front and center. I imagine they'll be there this Saturday, front and center. If they win, absolutely, I expect both of them to talk and discuss the greatness of Inter Miami from where they started, you know, in 2020 to now. If they lose, I doubt we'll hear from either one of them. But that's how it goes these days.
I want to, and this one just popped in my head, and I want to ask you this. Was there really a personal reason with Tata Martino?
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I don't buy that he just left because he just had to go. I don't buy that. And there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that come out way later, years later.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even hear about some of the stories that happens in locker rooms, but plenty of other times you do. I imagine at some point we'll get the truth as to what happened.
Yeah.
Because look, he's back in MLS.
Atlanta.
Just over a year later, he's back in Atlanta where he started his MLS journey or the MLS chapter in his career. So clearly whatever personal issue he had got resolved fairly quickly. So I'm not buying it. I didn't buy the hug or the handshake between Jorge Mas and Tata during the goodbye press conference. It seemed fake to me. It seemed very Godfather 2-esque. Like you're hugging, but you're like behind those faces, and you're like, yeah, you know. So I didn't buy it. Clearly, there's probably more to the story than just, oh yeah, I had a personal reason and I gotta go.
I think there was a story of Jorge Mas met Mascherano at a hotel or something like that, and they had some sort of conversation. I don't know if that was a correct story, but if that is true, if there's any truth to that, I mean, that is kind of what the kids nowadays say. It's kind of sus.
There's so many things that could be thrown out there.
Yeah.
Again, the real story would probably come out at some point. And look, the fact that Tata's back in MLS, I mean, I think pretty much tells you that was BS. That was BS. Now you could say, something might have happened to him then. It got resolved and he's back. I mean, does he really give up a contract of 3.5 years or 2.5 years, whatever he had signed, for something that got resolved pretty quickly? I mean, it could happen. It could happen. It's life, but coincidences in professional sports, I don't believe too much in.
So I want your honest opinion, as you always do. Who do you have winning this MLS Cup and why?
Depends on what happens to Tadeo Allende, man. I've said all week that I think Inter Miami wins, that I expect Inter Miami to win on Saturday. They were the favorites, the heavy favorites for me. But that's with the 4-3-3. That's with Tadeo Allende starting. If Tadeo Allende does not start, then that can change my prediction, because depends what Mascherano does. And I just mentioned this on the podcast. There's realistically probably 3 options. He can stick with the 4-3-3, push Baltasar Rodriguez from one of those central midfield spots into that right wing spot. So then you have Baltasar and Toto Silvetti flanking Messi. And then you can either bring in Yannick Bright, who gives you good ball retention, although not good possession or generation of play in that midfield. Or you could bring in Telasco Segovia, which does give you that possession, does give you that generation of 1-2s and the ability to generate play, but not the best defensively, not the best athletically. Or option 3, go back to the 4-4-2 and you start Luis Suarez with Lionel Messi up top. And if that's the route they go, then I'm probably picking Vancouver. But that's a if. That's a big if.
It's a if.
So right now, I mean, I don't want to not answer your question, and I don't want to give you an incomplete.
Like, what's your gut feeling? Like, what is your gut?
But that's the thing. I need to see if Allende's back. If he's not, if Allende's not back, it definitely opens the door for Vancouver, because Vancouver can win this game 2 to 3 ways. One is set pieces, because we know Inter Miami's vulnerable there.
Yeah.
Right? If they're really good on set pieces, that could open up the game and help them have enough space to kill it off. The other way, I said 3, but I meant 2. The other way is if Vancouver is impeccable in their attacking transitions, which we have seen them be at times, and we saw against Inter Miami in the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinals. If they're impeccable in their attacking transitions and ruthless, clinical, lethal, deadly in front of goal with the chances that they do get, then that's how they can win this game. Because I don't see another way for Vancouver to win. I don't see them knocking the ball around and playing on Inter Miami's field and beating them in that style.
Yeah.
It's going to be either dead ball situations or counter-attacking perfection, in my opinion. That's why the 4-3-3 is important for me for Inter Miami. So, but I'm going to give you an answer. If I have to say right now, I'm going Inter Miami. Right now. If Luis Suarez is in that lineup, though, then just know that my prediction probably changes.
It's going to change. Okay. Despite the result, whatever the result is on Saturday, win or lose, they're going to call this a historic season for the club. What do you think is next for this club, win or lose on Saturday?
I think that there will be a Messi era 2.0 after this game. Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets are not coming back. Luis Suarez is a maybe, but if he does come back, it's probably not going to be with the same type of role.
Yeah.
Not going to be a guaranteed starter. I think they go younger. I think they go more energetic. I think they go in line with what we've seen kind of in this playoff run. I think it's been a sample an example of what we might see going forward. So I do think you'll see a refreshing of things. But Inter Miami has to win on Saturday. Yeah. If they do not win, right? Every final helps define the season. But for Inter Miami, it largely defines the season. If they win MLS Cup, then they've won a big trophy.
Yeah.
And you can deem that a success. If they do not win, then they win no trophies this year. Yes, they made it to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They qualified for it for next season. But they are a team of casi, a team of almost, a team that got to the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinals and fell short. Team that got to the Leagues Cup final and fell short. A team that got to MLS Cup final and fell short. They need to win. It's pass-fail on Saturday. That might sound unfair to some people, but that's just the nature. Sports are a results-oriented business. And up until now, Inter Miami has not gotten the results. They're probably their peak of this year is making it out of the group stage of the Club World Cup. You know, something that a lot of people didn't predict, myself included. I did not think that would happen. They made it out of the group stage. And then they got throttled by PSG, which no crime in that. But when you leave a tournament losing 4-0, I mean, it's a success, sure, but you know, ended with an eyesore. If that's your biggest accomplishment in the year, then obviously probably didn't live up to expectations when you are a team that is supposed to be contending for titles, contending for trophies. So they got to win, man. They got to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no excuses. The referee, the weather, Mother Nature, look, whatever the case is. Saturday, got to win. That's it.
Last question, man. I know we've been talking about MLS Cup final and Inter Miami, but tomorrow's a big day. It's the 2026 FIFA World Cup draw. I'm very excited. The hype this whole week, the hype is getting bigger and bigger. I want to know, who is your favorite to win it all?
Oof. Argentina's up there for sure. You know, they're on a roll. They've been on a roll since before the last World Cup. You know, they've won, 2 Copa Americas and a World Cup now in the last few years. So Argentina's definitely in the conversation. Could throw France in there. We'll see about Germany and Brazil. But if it comes down to Argentina and France right now for me.
I'm going to go. You're going to be surprised when I say it in my mouth first because they always choke. But I like England.
You like England, okay.
I think they have a very talented squad. I think they've been knocking on the door in the past couple tournaments. I have to go France for sure.
I would hate if England won the World Cup. It would be what's the word I'm looking for? They'd be insufferable. They'd be insufferable, brother. They'd be insufferable. Like I hate every time in the last, like you mentioned, the last few tournaments where they've gone deep that they're like, oh, they're bringing it home or whatever the hell they say. I find that so annoying for whatever reason. I just find that annoying. So,
but you know what?
No England. I mean, listen, they have a quality team. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying, hell no, don't do it.
You know what, Franco? I take it back because it's our 250th anniversary of this country, and I would not want England and English fans to be celebrating in this country on the 250th anniversary winning the World Cup. So I take it back for that.
Hey, look, you could still think they're a favorite, right? It doesn't mean you want them to win, but you could still think they're a favorite. That's fair.
Okay.
No, I'm just because I think Argentina or France could win or are the favorites, it doesn't mean I want them to win. Just to make that clear.
So yeah, them, France for sure. You know, I'm gonna throw Portugal in there, not just because of Cristiano, but I really do think that their players have been playing really good.
Yeah.
And I have to throw Spain in there.
Okay. Spain's not a bad shout. Portugal's not a bad shout either. Imagine the storylines if Ronaldo won a World Cup. that would be crazy.
My problem with Spain, and I'm a little bit biased because my family from my mom's side is Spaniard. Mm-hmm. And I grew up, with that side. So I'm a little biased, but the more Lamine Yamal talks, the worse it gets. He talks and then he doesn't show up in those big moments. after he talks.
You don't until you do. Yeah. And he's still very young. So this could be the time he does.
I'm going to need him to just bring it down a notch and let's focus on winning it all. I know they won the Euros, but let's focus.
Let's see. So you don't have Argentina in there. You don't have Messi and co as favorites.
Listen, Franco, and my friends are probably laughing really hard right now because anyone that knows me knows that I am not a big Argentina fan. I don't like the way that they play. I think that they're dirty. I think that they don't have any sorts of sportsmanship. Granted, like the game with the Netherlands, you can say, oh, Netherlands was talking garbage before the game. But like even the way that they went on penalties and you have that picture of just the Argentine players looking back at the Dutch players. And you have this guy kicking the ball straight at the Dutch bench. I like teams that win with class and lose with class.
So, that's definitely not Argentina, bro.
It's not Argentina.
That's definitely not Argentina.
And like you said about England, the last World Cup Argentina won, for me, especially here in Miami, it was insufferable. So those are my feelings.
Listen, man, I'm honestly, some countries are more insufferable than others, but unless it's your country winning, man, anybody's gonna be insufferable because you're gonna have to hear for 4 years about how they're the best and yada 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 yada. So you know, I always find myself getting annoyed with anyone that wins when it's not my team. But yes, there's levels to this. So some are more obnoxious than others, but no, listen, man, your criticisms of Argentina, I think, are fair. You know, Argentines might not like it, but I think they're fair criticisms, whether people agree or disagree. I think it's criticism that can be had, right? They're sore winners at times. We've seen that element with Inter Miami as well.
Yeah,
you know, they do like to ruffle the feathers. When they win and when they lose, you know, they get really bent out of shape, which look, nobody likes to lose, but sometimes they lose the plot. We saw that with the Seattle Sounders in the Leagues Cup final.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a valid argument.
I'll tell you a quick story before we end, but I volunteered in the Club World Cup this past summer, and obviously Boca Juniors was here. The atmosphere was amazing. But this is what I'm telling you, Franco. Before the game against Bayern, they play the U.S. anthem, and the entire Boca Juniors section just starts booing during the U.S. anthem. And I was like, okay, well, if we did that to the Argentine national anthem, people will be burning cars outside.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's probably... It's probably fair. I mean, there's a perception with generally speaking, it's not all Argentines, but there's a perception that they can take it, but they can't, or they can dish it, but they can't take it.
Can't take it. Yeah,
they can dish it, but they can't take it. You know, they'll do a lot, but if you do the same type of treatment to them, then it's chaos and all hell breaks loose.
Uncalled for.
But that's a general perception. That doesn't speak for for every sure. Argentine out there before
for sure
the Argentine Association comes knocking on my door.
Hey, they have good wine and churrasco, so I'm not complaining.
Listen, their food is fantastic. They have tremendous footballers. Historically, I've been to Argentina. I enjoyed my trip. I have Argentine friends. Argentine people are great. But like any people, there's pluses and minuses, positives and negatives,
for sure. But anyways, guys, this has been Pressing Matters, episode number 10 with Franco Panizo. Go look at all of his social media on X. He'll keep you up to date with Inter Miami and, of course, Miami Total Football. Go check that out. It's a fantastic listen. I appreciate you, man, for just coming on here and just sharing your time.
Yeah, no problem, brother. I know we've been trying to line it up for a bit, and it's been hard to get me on just because, like, it's got so much going on, man. I don't know if you can hear the baby crying in the background, but she's there crying right now. But no, anytime you need, bro, we go way back. So happy to come on. Happy to talk some soccer, some football, some Inter Miami. Whenever you want, man, we'll try to line it up again for sure.
Appreciate you, man. Have a great night, everybody.
Shout out to your dad.